Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our media availability for Friday, June the 19th. You're going to hear from Adam Laughlin, our interim city manager, in a moment, followed by Roger Javney, who is the branch manager of community and recreation facilities. And then we'll have time, of course, for your questions. Want to once again thank our interpretive team of Diane Deondrad and Kevin Cope for their services. Take it away, Adam.
Great, thanks, Katrin, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to be providing some opening comments before I turn it over to Roger to provide additional details. But before I do that, I would like to share some news around a COVID outbreak. Recently, we've been advised that employees of one of our contractors working in the materials recovery facility at the Edmonton Waste Management Centre, they've recently tested positive for COVID-19. I'd like to confirm that there is no public exposure to this facility or public access, and that no City of Edmonton employees are affected. The material recovery facility, which is referred to as the MRF, is owned by the City of Edmonton, but it's operated by Suez Canada Waste Services. Staff at the facility take the materials from residents' blue bags and recycling depots and sort it for recycling or processing. They play an important role in keeping the waste out of the landfill. On June 9th, Suez advised us that one of their employees working at the MRF tested positive for COVID-19. Upon notification, all activities at the recovery facility were suspended and the facility was closed. Suez employees and their subcontractors who work at the MRF site were sent home. As of yesterday, we have been advised that 10 Suez employees have tested positive. Suez has been working closely with Alberta Health Services to ensure appropriate COVID-19 protocols are in place and that contact tracing and testing are underway. As testing continues, those numbers may change. The well-being of City of Edmonton employees and the public remains our top priority. The MRF and all other facilities that these contractors may have visited at the Edmonton Waste Management Centre have undergone significant cleaning and disinfecting. I would like to reiterate again, there is no public exposure or access to this facility. We are proceeding with caution, taking guidance from Alberta Health Services, and the MRF will remain closed until further notice. Our thoughts and well wishes go out to those employees, and we wish them a speedy recovery. Shifting gears, I'm pleased to announce that the phased reopening of select City of Edmonton recreation facilities is going to be starting in early July. This news follows the province's Stage 2 reopening announcement on June 9th that actually pulled the rec facilities from Stage 3 to Stage 2, and it relaxed the restrictions on the recreation facilities and services. We understand how important these facilities and services are for Edmontonians, especially as people look to bring fun and regular activity back into their lives. Our recreation facility reopening plans have balanced those needs with our current public health requirements and our operation and financial realities. Reopening these services like putting a puzzle back together, and we have done this work thoughtfully and carefully. We're using a phased approach for implementation to ensure that people, equipment, and services remain safe and compliant with the Alberta Health Services Alberta Health restrictions and guidelines. As a result, not all the facilities are scheduled to reopen at this time. Roger will go through those in more detail. Edmontonians will notice differences in these types of facilities as well, in the way they look and feel and how they access each of the amenities within the facility. Physical distancing, hand hygiene practices, enhanced sanitization, and gathering restrictions all still apply within our reopened facilities. Reopening will also mean bringing back some laid-off city employees back to work and reassigning some of those who have been redeployed. We've begun that process and will provide returning employees the necessary training and support for operating in this new COVID-19 environment. Reopening the rec facilities is a 3-phase process that includes frequent monitoring and reviewing before we proceed. We'll be reviewing how this first phase goes and apply lessons learned to the other facilities and services that we're planning to open in the future. Some other good news, we know that as we approach the first day of summer this weekend, residents are looking for more opportunities to be out in the sunshine with their families. So in July, we will be reopening approximately 25 spray parks across the city. We continue to do a review specifically of which one of the 70 or which 25 of the 74 spray parks will be reopened. Today we can announce that our flagship spray parks, the 7 that will reopen this weekend, include Collingwood, Castle Downs, G. Edmonds, Kelly, Glengarry, Jackie Parker, Kinsman, and South Terwillegar Park. We're estimating that the roughly 18 spray parks that once they're confirmed will be reopened by mid-July. As always, we ask Edmontonians for their patience and understanding if their local facility remains closed or they have limited services available. We recommend that everyone check the City of Edmonton website before they make plans to visit a facility. And before I hand it over to Roger, who will take you in more detail in terms of some of those relaunch plans, I want to reiterate that we are looking forward to inviting Edmontonians back to our facilities and resuming safe and fun activity. But please ensure that you continue to follow the provincial requirements on physical distancing and gatherings, that you continue to practice good hand hygiene practices, and if you can't physical distance, wear a mask. Also, the protocols within the facilities must be followed, and if they are not followed, we may have to reconsider the opening. So we do need your support in making sure that we make this safe and healthy for everyone. So I'll now turn it over to Roger.
Thanks, Adam, and good afternoon, everyone. We're happy to announce today the reopening of some of the city's recreation centers, indoor pools, and arenas starting in July. We know that many Edmontonians who visit city facilities are eager to return, and we're pleased to welcome you back. As you might recall, our 18 recreation centers and 23 arenas have been closed since March 14th in response to the pandemic. On July 6th, 4 of our larger recreation centers, Terwillegar, Commonwealth, Clairview, and the Meadows, will reopen. At this time, only the fitness centers and gyms in these facilities will be available for use, with daily hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Areas like indoor playgrounds and kids zones will remain closed. The Kinsman Sports Center will also reopen in July, and the specific date is being finalized. The city provided this facility to the Mustard Seed for use, and we're helping them now find a new location, and we'll announce the reopening dates for Kinsman very shortly. On July 20th, our indoor pools at Clairview, the Jasper Place Fitness and Leisure Center, the Bonnie Doon Leisure Center will open for modified lane swimming, aquafit classes, swimming lessons, and public swims. While we're pleased to reopen these facilities, we still need to adhere to the provincial guidelines on the number of people that are allowed in each facility at any given time. As a result, all visitors must book a time at movelearnplay.edmonton.ca in order to enter a facility. Unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate those who just drop in without booking a time. There will also be limits on how long you can stay. More details about the booking process will be announced in the days ahead, with bookings starting in the coming weeks. Alberta health guidelines for recreation centers and pools are extensive, and we are closely following them to ensure the safety of both our staff and the public. We've established new cleaning regimens, repositioned fitness equipment, and removed frequently touched items like resistance bands to add to our efforts to create a safe environment. We're all in this together, so it's important that everyone plays their part. The most important thing to remember is that if you're ill, stay home. Current memberships have been paused since March 14th and will remain paused now until a member requests to reactivate their membership. More information on that process will be provided to members directly in the coming days. We'll be implementing a new temporary pricing structure for the monthly passes and daily visits. And this reflects the changes to the amenities that we are able to offer in our facilities. Details on pricing will be posted next week on edmonton.ca rec centers. Reopening facilities includes a return to work or transition from redeployment for approximately 350 city employees from our branch and the city operations department. The number of employees returning from temporary layoff will depend on the number of employees transitioning back from redeployments. The number will be known in the coming weeks from the selection of returning employees is confirmed. So in addition to the rec centers and pools, we'll also be opening 8 arenas between July 2nd and 13th. This will allow those clubs who've already booked time to carry out their activities. New bookings will be available starting on July 2nd. We'll not be offering any drop-in activities such as shinny hockey or public skating during these times. Rentals of our gyms, our larger rec center halls, and field houses will also be available for groups returning to programs that adhere to the Alberta Health Guidelines. As I said earlier, this is only our first phase of reopening, and we'll continue to work on the subsequent phases for reopenings to determine what can be reopened and when. And we will share those details when we can. So thank you for joining us today. Adam and I are happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Roger. We have 5 reporters online. I'll go first, please, to Scott from 630 Chat. Go ahead, Scott.
Yes, thank you. First, if you're doing this and there's a cost involved, are there other services that you've ruled out because of cost?
Adam's going to tackle that question for you, Scott. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Scott. And I'm assuming when you say other services, you're meaning beyond the specific rec facilities, or do you mean within the rec facilities?
Beyond rec facilities.
So we're continuing to evaluate that, Scott. Particularly on the rec side, there is a revenue element associated to that, so that certainly helps with some of the financial pressures we have. But we continue to evaluate those services that we've paused or stopped based on the pandemic. And we will have a report at Council on July 6th that's a kind of an interim budget update. And at that time, we'll be able to have a more fulsome discussion with Council about some of those services.
Scott, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, again for Adam, and this is overall COVID related. Dr. Hinshaw has talked about her metric of 50 per 100,000 population. I'm presuming you're using not just Edmonton, but Metro Edmonton as your basis. We're at 200 some odd active cases now. 50 per 100,000, that's 600 active cases. That's a tripling. That's not out of the realm of possibility. How nervous are you that we might get there in a second wave?
So we do work closely with our regional partners. Right now, we are at 20 cases per 100,000 in Edmonton specific. I don't have the number for larger or the regional side of that. So we're under that 50. But to your point, this virus has proven that it can spread quickly. So it is something we monitor on a regular basis. We get daily updates on where we're at in terms of the numbers. And I would say that I'm concerned about the increase in cases in Edmonton. But I also balance that with the additional testing that's been offered to any individuals in Alberta as a way to confirm the numbers and cases that we have. So we're cautious and are concerned with the increase, which is why every time I'm up here, I'm reinforcing that we still need people to stay very diligent when it comes to this virus, this pandemic, and to follow the rules. And in this particular case, we're talking about rec today, to follow the guidelines and protocols that we have in our facilities, because we will close if we're not seeing good behavior, and we've done that previously with skate parks. But I mean, short answer to your question, I'm concerned that the numbers are going up, but my trust is in Edmontonians to do their part to ensure that we minimize this risk of spread.
Thank you, Scott. We're going to go next, please, to Dustin Cook at the Journal. Go ahead, Dustin.
Hi, thanks very much for taking my question. I believe it's for Adam. I'm not sure if I missed this earlier, but I'm wondering, with the rec centers reopening, if laid-off employees are coming back to staff these rec centers, and how many and when, if you have details on that?
We do. I think to this point, we've recalled, just let me get my papers here, Dustin. Yeah, 350 employees have been returned to work, and that's either from their redeployment and doing other services on behalf of the city of Edmonton, or recalled from temporary layoff. And I imagine, and you know, as we get through the phases that I mentioned and Roger mentioned, there'll be more working through those details right now in terms of how and when the rest of those employees that are needed to operate in this phased approach would be recalled or returned to work, sorry.
Dustin, did you have a follow-up?
I do, yes. On the outbreak at the material recovery facility, just to confirm, so the city was informed on June 9th that an employee tested positive. Did the city then take the step that day to close the facility, or did it happen days later?
My understanding is that it wasn't that day. It was, and I don't have the specific date, Dustin, but it happened later. But throughout the process, it's been informed based on guidance from Alberta Health Services, and we can confirm the specific date in terms of when that closure happened. Again, the first case was June 9th. I think it was yesterday I mentioned that we received confirmation that there were actually more cases after the tracing and testing that followed.
And Dustin will get that chronology to you. We'll go next, please, to Stephen with the CBC. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hello. My question is for Adam. We received, you received word that there was a positive case at the facility on June 9th. But why are we only hearing about it 10 days later?
Well, I think it goes to the testing and the tracing efforts that are taking place, or that have taken place through Alberta Health Services. We've had other City of Edmonton cases, and we haven't shared necessarily all the specifics related to that. And I think that is part of the reality as you start to reopen. There will be more cases, and Scott mentioned this in his question, that we are seeing an increase, and our first and foremost effort is to make sure that our public and our employees are safe, and the steps have been taken to do that at this facility.
Stephen, if I may just layer in here, I think Dr. Hinshaw would agree that there's a distinction between an individual case and what is called an outbreak, and the outbreak was confirmed yesterday, and we're sharing that information today, and our understanding is that Dr. Hinshaw will be speaking to it in her afternoon availability. Did you have a follow-up, Stephen?
Yes, it's more like a second question, and this would be actually for Roger. I've just spoken to some ladies whose deep water aquasizing is very important to them, and I guess that sort of brings up the question, it says Aquafit will be returning on July 20th. How are the specific classes sort of being decided on, and how will that be balanced with the limits on people actually in the facility?
Yeah, we have a limited number of pools that are opening, so we're trying to balance the Aquafit programs, which are very popular, with public swim times and lane swim times, and then with the capacities in each pool. So we'll be posting the specific classes on movelearnplay.edmonton.ca and the times that they're being offered.
Details just to come.
Yeah, details to come.
Thank you, Stephen. We'll go next to Vinesh at Global. Go ahead, Vinesh.
Yeah, this is a question for Roger. So just with that, how many memberships, I guess, have been canceled, due to COVID? And then, what are your projections as we move forward? And then, I apologize with that, are the rec centers, are they kind of self-sustaining? And is there concern that the city is going to have to, basically subsidize these operations as things get back to normal?
Yeah, Vinesh, we have about 42,000 memberships, and Most people have put them on hold and are waiting to come back. We had 2,300 people cancel. The facilities, they vary in their cost recovery. Some are close to 100% cost recovery. Some of these smaller leisure centers are much less than that. So there is a subsidy for rec facilities that's built into our budget, and we certainly considered the financial impacts of reopening in the specific facilities and overall within the branch as to what facilities we brought forward.
Vinesh, did you have a follow-up to that?
Yeah, I guess, are there, what's the plan going forward in terms of, full ramp up? And, just take us through that. I mean, is there any concern that, services might have to be pulled back if the revenue isn't there?
Yeah, I think as we look at the future phases when we may bring things forward, the financial analysis of the specific facilities will be part of that. The overall city's financial position will be part of that. So there's no guarantee that everything will come back on quickly. We'll certainly be monitoring sort of the uptake of the services and make adjustments based on, the response we get from the public as well.
Thanks, Vinesh. We'll go next to Amanda with CTV. Go ahead, Amanda. I think you may need to unmute, Amanda.
Star 6.
We'll move on to Nafi Alibert with CBC.
Amanda's on that.
Oh, now we're back to Amanda. Okay, go ahead, Amanda, with your question.
My apologies, first time using this program and I couldn't unmute. So
No problem. Go ahead.
one thing, I know that I think it was Roger that mentioned about some price adjustments. Details are coming next week, but can you give us any? Can you give us any sort of idea? Like, is it going to be price, hikes? Is it going to be price reductions because not all of the services are there? Can you provide any sort of insight?
Sure. Our strategy, we really have three sort of tiers of pricing, and we're going to drop everything to our lowest tier. And that way folks that have those memberships will be able to use Terwilliger or Clairview with their current memberships, and the daily prices and monthly prices will reflect sort of that lowest tier of facilities we have to acknowledge that there are less services and amenities available than we normally would have.
Did you have a follow-up, Amanda?
Yes, and I just wanted to confirm, the 7 spray parks that you said were going to be opening first, they are in fact opening this weekend?
That's correct, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. And we'll go next to Nafi with CBC. Go ahead, please. I think you may need to unmute. You're our last reporter. We're happy to wait. Is Navi available? Not seeing any action there. There's time for one last question before we wrap up. Anyone?
Yeah, can I ask a question of Adam, just related to the spray parks? Obviously the spray parks, they're going to be very popular with the warm stretch of weather. How do we ensure physical distancing? I know you mentioned it, but I mean, kids are kids, and how do we kind of balance the desire for the parks versus the reality that we're still in right now?
Thanks, Vinesh, and yeah, it's a tough one to make sure folks are following. Certainly when you layer in that there's the cohort element or family element to that as well, it does create a challenge, but this is something that our peace officers have been working through with other facilities like the skateboard parks and the basketball courts or the different courts that we opened, and so they'll be out and they'll continue to take the steps of education, warning, and fining if needed, and then if we're just like we did with the one skate park, if we are seeing where there isn't compliance, we will potentially take the measure to close it down. So we do need Edmontonians to follow the guidelines and make sure that they're respecting what the health authority, and I say that to be crystal clear, this is the direction of the health authority around how we should behave in this current pandemic. So it's, again, Vanessa, it's continuing to monitor, educate, warn, and ticket, and close if necessary.
Thanks, Vinesh. One last call for Nafi. I think that's everything for today. Thank you for being with us.
Scott here. I got
Oh.
one last one
Yep.
for Roger, if I could.
No problem.
And it's off topic, but that's what I do. Roger, does this COVID pandemic have any impact on our World Cup? Delaying things, delaying site visits, delaying the timeline in any way?
Yeah, we've been working with Canada Soccer and with FIFA to extend the deadlines. They've had to push things out for their selection of candidate cities or host cities, so it does buy us some time. Globally, no one's in a position really to be moving those forward, and FIFA can't do the site visits, so it buys us a little bit of time. But we're continuing to work aggressively on that bid to bring the World Cup here in 2026.
Has it changed the bid in any way?
Oh, we certainly, when FIFA comes, we're expecting them to come this fall on some site visits, and we have a large agenda sort of about the overall plan. We'll have to see what happens in Qatar. It may need to change. The whole structure of the event may change, but we'll work with FIFA and Canada Soccer on any details that they want to make or any changes that they're contemplating to the format.
Thank you, Scott,
Thank you.
and thank you everyone for being with us. Have a very happy weekend.
Can I throw one more out?
Is this Amanda?
It is.
Yes, go ahead, Amanda. Last question.
Just on the bylaw being out, making sure that people are following the rules, how many tickets have been issued? Can you give us an update there?
Get that to you, Amanda. I'm afraid we don't have that at our fingertips, but we'll ensure that our media relations unit gets that information to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can that be sent to everyone, please?
You betcha. No problem. Thanks. Okay,
Thank you.
it's a wrap. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.